Your friend invites you to an event that she's going with her whole family. It's going to be a concert, or maybe it's going to be a birthday party at their house, and you would love to go. But wait a second. There's going to be loud noise, whether it's at the concert or a whole bunch of people at her house, and you know that does not mix with your family, whether it's your husband, your kids, or both, and you feel sad and just don't know how to make it work out. Today, I'm going to share with you my long-term strategy in dealing with these type of events, and I'm hoping this helps you out too. Hey friend, do the daily demands of family life leave you exhausted with no time for yourself? Ready to make self-care and healthy boundaries a natural part of your day, all while embracing your roles as a wife and mom? Well, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Christina, married 16 years to a neurodiverse man, mom of 3 neurodiverse kids, and many more roles. Welcome to the Moms and Neurodiverse Families podcast. Get ready to begin your self-care journey. Grab your Sante latte and listen in as we take a small step towards a healthier you. Hey, if you're loving these conversations we're having and you want more encouragement like this, make sure to grab the link in the show notes and join my email list. I have a planner launching soon that is going to help put all this in action, balancing your life roles, being a wife, mom, and all the activities you're in, and also taking care of yourself, your self-care. Now, I have a embarrassing story to share. For me, now I can laugh at it, but at the time it was embarrassing. So when my kids were young, and before we even knew there was any neurodiversity, we were at a big event at our church. There were a lot of people there, and my kids, at that time, they were probably around the age of about 4 to 5. I was pregnant, actually, now I think back. So my mobility was also limited chasing after these kiddos. And they were so excited because there were so many people. Like they were picking up the excitement in the room. It's supposed to be a celebration for other kids. And there was lights that were going up and down, and there was lots of noise and lots of people. Before the event began, my kids were just oscillating back and forth between they wanted to hide and they wanted to run and yell. And if you've ever seen this happen with someone, you know what I mean, where they can't tell, like, do you want to sit or do you want to go? I can't tell what's happening. And so they were either on the ground, crouching down, and like, mama, it's too loud, too much. And then they would pop up and they would begin running around, yelling and giggling. And so in my mind, I thought, oh, they were having a hard moment, but they must be doing better now. This is before I understood anything regarding sensory issues. Now I look back at that and I see it completely differently. But at the time, I just thought, okay, this is a new event, or they're super excited. It kept increasing the intensity of their hiding and then all of a sudden coming out and running around and giggling, to a point their shoes came off and one of them threw it a couple rows ahead of us into the audience. And I was so embarrassed and shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are they thinking of me as a mom? Like, what have my kids done? Thank goodness these people were very gracious and passed back the shoes. I would love to say that was the only time that happened, and it's not. But one, thank goodness for people who do understand and don't expect kids to be 100% silent and quiet. But also, that was so hard for me because my kids, they were having a fun time when they weren't having difficulties. But for me, it was awful. It was like a nightmare because I was so embarrassed that I wasn't able to have my kids sit down. Like, I saw a whole bunch of other kids sitting down in the sanctuary. That moment was one of many I kept piling up saying, there's something going on here. And it continued when I noticed the few Sundays a year we would have the kids in service with us. And that was really the big event, the bigger events, I would say, in their lives. The first ones was really the church service because we didn't do concerts back then. My spouse wasn't really into that too much. I began noticing the few Sundays that we had the kids in church with us, they didn't have Sunday school, that there were just major issues that would happen. It happened during certain parts of the church service. And I began picking up and noticing these trends. And once we understood what was going on, I began making a plan. So, first, let's talk about what kind of events I'm talking about. What the term loud, really, this depends upon you and your family, like how they define that. So this can be a party at someone's house, a birthday party. Maybe there's only 15 people there, but because it's in a super tiny small area, it is really loud and there's not much movement to move around, especially if your spouse likes to walk around to kind of regulate, or maybe your kids like to move around and it's really tight in there and there's lots of noise, and maybe it's also hot. So it doesn't have to be like a big concert, it can be an event like that, and it's that loudness usually is, that's the one item I look for. If it's loud or lots of people, those are the events that kind of like get my radar up and saying, oh, we need to start thinking through how we're going to handle events. It could be school concerts where it's a bigger auditorium and, oh, we love hearing those kids, all their hard work and they're practicing. But also, there's lots of sounds that come out of those instruments, or maybe when kids are singing, that aren't optimal for ears. And that can be hard for people to listen to. Or music concerts, like actual, a band is playing concerts. All those type of events, they can be loud, there can be lots of people there. This also can apply even to state fairs or other type of outdoor events. And these are the type of events you can, I'm sure ready, as I'm talking about this, you are thinking of those in your mind. Those are the type of events that when you take either the entire family to, or maybe it's just you and your spouse, or just you and your kids, there seems to be these same issues that pop up. What is causing that issue, the sensory needs behind it, can be very different from person to person. As I mentioned in previous episodes, some people are sensory avoiders. They are avoiding certain types of sensory experiences. And others are seekers. They really want to have that. And I have found, at least in my family, I have a combination of both. That there's some that are avoiding and some that are seeking. And there's different types of sensory profiles, some that are the sound, some that are light focused. There is also proprioceptive, which that is I would suggest you look that term up because I will not do it justice. But there's different types of sensory profiles within a person, and some will be avoiding and some will be seeking. So when you bring a group of people together, there's going to be a mismatch. It's not going to be all the same. What I realized thinking through and watching, observing my kids and my family all interacting together is that no matter what anyone might say within the neurodiverse autism spectrum, that the world should be more considerate for those with different needs. I agree. The world should consider those who are neurodivergent. But I'm also realistic. And I am not going to raise my kids expecting the world to change to meet their needs. I have to raise my kids up knowing that they're going to be in situations where it will be loud, there will be people, and it will be lots of people, and I put that in quotation marks. And that lots can be, for them, that could be 10 people or that could be 100 people. These definitions really is dependent upon the person, but the point being is it is a lot of noise, it's a lot of people, and they will not be able to avoid these situations their whole life. Yes, can they choose careers and can they choose a lifestyle that can minimize it? Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, expecting to create a life where you never are in these situations is setting them up for an awful, awful problems in the future. And I have to be careful because if I try to make, as I had in the past, try to make the home and social situations optimal so they don't have difficulty so they don't have to learn on their own how to navigate the world as it is, I do a humongous disservice because there will be a time mom won't be there and they will be in a situation where they will not know how to handle and navigate the challenges of being sensory overwhelmed. And it may cause them not only embarrassment, but there could be social or even employment implications. It is important for me to help them through it. At the same time, I don't want them to be suffering through these situations as well. Masking, pretending everything is fine, where inside it is killing them. And this is a very fine balance, which honestly is continuing the process. I'm continually trying to figure this out. When they were younger, I knew of some parents who always had headphones on their child, and I am not judging them one bit whatsoever. Not at all. But I had that thought if I always did that, they would never be prepared to be in the world and be around other people. And so this is my process that I have found, and I'm going to use our church service as an example of how I've helped them be able to incorporate being part of common social events in a way that honors both them, but also prepares them for what is many of the expectations if you want to be part of a community. When I first began going into the church, and we have a decently sized church, and so there are lots of people there. Now, they were used to being a church because they've been there since birth, but it was being within a one large room with lots of people and all that noise. That was a tricky part for them. What I have found is that I try not to avoid these situations, but also I don't try to force them to immerse into them as well. So, for example, I try not to set up my life to avoid these large events completely, but I also don't try to force them to attend these because you need to figure this out. That's not, it's a balance here, as with everything in a neurodiverse family. Because it feels to people who are neurodiverse, whether they're adults or children, that sometimes like the environment or the people around them are attacking them. That it is so much coming in at once that they can't even process it. In fact, it hurts their brain trying to understand it. My goal is to help them see things aren't attacking you. Right now, your brain is not trying understanding what's happening, or maybe you're frustrated beforehand going into this event and your amygdala is already firing and is already looking that there's trying to fight or flight or freeze, and you're not ready to engage, and so you're seeing the situation differently. So that is the goal, is helping our loved ones to be able to navigate these. So my approach was very, very slow. Now when I say slow, I will use my kids as an example. One child, it took 4 to 5 years to get to the point of coming into a church service and then being able to be in there with no headphones and be able to enjoy the service and the music. That took about 4 to 5 years. Another one, it's taken probably twice that amount, maybe even a little bit more. And so this is a process. However, again, I keep looking at the big picture. When they are adults, they can't avoid these. So this is something that I can do for them right now to help them out. When they were really young, the goal was, if we could, as much as possible, get to church early. So this is when there was no Sunday school, there was no care for the littles, and they were in service with us. So we would try to get there as soon as possible before the music began, before, in fact, the quieter it was, the better it was for us to be there. Because when they came and sat down, it would be maybe a somewhat quieter room. And slowly the noise would come up along with the activity. Now, for my kids and family, that worked well because it went from a quieter to a little bit louder over a progression of time. And they were able to be part of that process and experience it, and it didn't cause as many issues. When we would walk into the church service and the music was blaring full blast and we would walk into it, that was like an attack to them. Like, wow, there's so much sound, there's so much stuff going on, there's lights. That was way too much. So, one, going in early if possible, which was not always the case for that was not. But I did find when I went in very early before any music began, things went a lot easier for them. I would express the expectation that as a family, and again, maybe you don't come from this perspective, but as a family, we find it important to be able to come together as a church family to hear God's word and to learn and grow. And so that was the expectation that was set up. However, how we got there would be different for every child. A general process I have taken with our kids. So, first is going into service, and they are wearing noise canceling headphones. And we would, depending when we got to church service, if we got there early enough, they were able to be able to listen through the whole entire sermon and with their headphones on. But sometimes we got there a little bit later, or it was a harder day, and they would be in service, the worship would begin, we would go out during the worship time, and when the sermon began, we would come back in. Because even with the noise canceling headphones, there were other things going on, the light stimulus, all the people, and that was just too much. So we would go out and then come back in. Now, eventually the goal was then that we would stay in for the music. And for some kids, they kept wearing the noise canceling headphones. For others, they actually listened to music. And as they were doing the worship, because it was preferred songs they liked and they enjoyed it. And then they would sit the entire time in the service. Eventually, the next step was they were listening to their music or using their noise canceling headphones only during the worship time. And then the headphones came off during the sermon. Next step, they are sitting in service, no headphones during worship time and no headphones during the sermon. I'm not asking them to stand up. I'm not asking them to do anything else. That's it. The next level is that they have no headphones and they are standing during the worship music and they're listening to the sermon. They are fully participating in with the service. These are some, oh, I wish I would have done this differently moments that I had. One of them was when I didn't prepare the child that, hey, we're going to go try something a little differently. I had to prepare them, foreshadow that, hey, on Sunday, when you go into service, first off, it's telling them they're going into service because they maybe were expecting to go to Sunday school. You're going to be in service. And this time, instead of wearing your headphones the whole time, we're going to be taking them off during this portion of I had to prepare them. Doing it the morning of or right before service was a bad idea. They just needed time to adjust. And again, that's my lesson learned. This process really needs to be flexible because the goal, again, I don't want to cause them to be, I have to endure this because that's not what I want for them. But at the same time, they can't avoid it. So finding this balancing act, and as each time I talked about these levels that I did, the goal was, hey, you know what? I've experienced this long enough. I now understand what's happening when I hear this music, when I see what's going on. This is not overwhelming scary. I get it now. I understand it. Okay. And then I can change a little bit and have a little bit less of the protective barrier, whether it was the headphones, the music, or just sitting down. That as well was something where it was helpful for them, where they didn't have to be expected to know when to stand up and sit down. And again, for some of these kids, my kids, it went a couple, 4 years or so. And for others, it took much longer. And that's okay. I did find that sometimes, even though my kids were able to be in a louder situations, there might be some moments where it still gets to be too much for them and they need to pop out for a bit and come back in. Nothing wrong with that. I have gum with me all the time and they can chew gum if it becomes sensory overwhelmed as well. So I have all these different items I like to pull up to help them out. Also, you may find that you can go from noise canceling to music headphones, and then you may want to go towards ear loops, and that's EARLOOP. They sit inside the ear and they basically help reduce the sound. It's if you're looking to try to bring down the levels, so from noise canceling to over the ear headphones that are playing music, and you want to take another step down to get the whoever in your family used to being around these noises, those ear loops are a great way. And they have many different levels of noise canceling where it takes out the highs or the lows. When we see this as a process, makes it a lot easier versus, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to go to these kind of events. It is possible. And allowing your neurodiverse loved one to help decide what the process should be, like how fast it should go, is really important to listen to them. At the same time, realizing that they do prefer comfort and that challenge in these areas is hard. So this is where I believe prayer is important and knowing that should I be slowing this down or are they ready for this next step? As you work on this, maybe it's birthday parties. Maybe for birthday parties, you do something very similar. And it is you prepare people, hey, listen, so and so is going to be wearing headphones for most of this time for this birthday party. And then you had the last 15 minutes, they're going to take them off and they're going to put in ear loops. And that the next event you go to, you change that around. It's like, okay, guess what? You get to wear headphones for this part, but then at this last part, you're going to be wearing ear loops for 30 minutes. There's so many different ways you can work with this. The whole goal of it is to find a process so that they can experience these social situations, realize that they're not trying to attack them, that they're not bad, understand what's all happening, and yet still stay calm. And then the amount that they are involved with the social situation will continue to increase as time goes along until they're able to be fully immersed. Are our kids going to really seek out these type of events on a daily basis? No. And neither should they. I mean, I don't want to go to these large events all the time myself either. But they do need to be able to navigate being in either a bunch of people in a small room or a large room of lots of people. That will happen in their lives. But what we're doing is helping them. Now, a real quick comment about neurodiverse adults. And depending upon their age, if they found out they were neurodiverse much later in life and they did not have people helping them through these social situations and foreshadowing when they were younger, they're going to be at a very different spot as an adult. What I would suggest is one, if they are wanting to be at these events, you can adultify this process by one, they're wearing AirPod Pros as they go into these loud events, and they're using the noise canceling option with it. Or there's other types of in-ear headphones they can use to help cancel that noise. And depending upon the event, there's certain parts of it that they should possibly like leave or go outside. For example, the worship music, that might be something for most of them. They will not be able to be in a sanctuary for worship music because of the loudness. It may take them multiple years to get used to that. Or they might have to be in a very, very small sanctuary to become used to that. It is possible by using the AirPod Pros and then also finding a place to sit that is either further back and close to the exit so they can walk out if they need to, or they may find they actually want to be up front because the view of people moving around is way too much for them and they need to not see people get up and go use the bathroom and come back in. That's too hard for them. So your family may have to actually sit separate during church. You may have your spouse is sitting up front so they can take care of their needs. And maybe you're sitting farther in the back because in case you need to take a kid outside who's having problems with the sounds, or your spouse is listening to, if your service happens to play the sermon and the music outside in the more lobby area, then they're out there listening to it, or maybe they're coming in for the sermon but not for the music. There's ways this can be adjusted. The point is that when it comes to adults, we need to find creative ways to adjust. And sitting for a birthday party, they maybe come to the party very early and they're there with people and talking, or maybe they come at the end of the birthday party because there's less people there. But looking at when to come to events where maybe the noise is less and they're wearing their AirPod Pros, they have gum that they're chewing, some long-lasting gum they can keep, and they keep a couple pieces in their pocket and they're just kind of pop it in their mouth because that chewing gum will help. So for some people, straws are helpful. So they have their water bottle with a straw, and by sucking on that straw, that is regulating and calming. There's lots of things that can be done to help someone, in adult and kids, in these social situations where there is so many people and so much noise. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. And in the midst of this is stress. This was stressful for me. I won't lie. This was hard for me, especially when I had the thought, this is never going to end. I don't know what to do about this. Taking care of yourself afterwards, usually on days I knew that their kids would be in service with us, I kept very and usually Sundays are lackadaisical, but I kept very lazy days schedule-wise, so that when we got done, I wasn't rushed or I have to pressure the kids to get going to another event. I kept it low key because that was a pretty major thing for them being in service, that when they thought like everything is attacking them, it's so loud. I want to honor them by not pushing them too much. And also, I probably started getting frazzled. I know sometimes I got frazzled and frustrated in trying to navigate and figure out how to make this work. And so I myself needed a break. When you have these type of loud events, keeping your day simplified so afterwards everyone can recover is a great way to ensure success for the next time. Hey, thank you for joining me today. I pray this episode gave you encouragement to take one small step. If so, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help other women find this show. By the way, if you're loving this conversation and want more encouragement like this, join my email list at bit.ly/myselfcare. That is bit.ly/myselfcare. I have a planner launching soon that will help you put all this into action in your own life. I look forward to chatting with you again next week for another episode.